Hey guys, what's going on? Hermdo back with you on a beautiful Sunday afternoon where I'm stuck inside, not going outside because the sun hurts my pasty flesh. But anyways, in an attempt to kind of understand where the other side is coming from, I found this article. This is from Quote the Raven, his Fringe Finances on Substack. But I read this, a friend sent this to me. My friend is kind of pro-Trump, and me and him were talking back and forth. I was kind of concerned about where the tariffs were going and where the other stuff was headed. Let me take this off so I actually read the damn article. But if he sent me this, I read through it. It makes some pretty salient points. I don't know if everyone's going to agree with this kind of stuff, but this kind of takes a softer approach to the tariffs and to Trump, and kind of discusses like how this was kind of necessary to disrupt the status quo. Because look, I'm a working class guy. I live in a low income area. I've seen the devastating effects of basically the shitty economy for the last few years. I know what these people are going through. Things could not continue on the current path we were headed on. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. But let's get into this article a little bit, this Substack piece here a little bit, and discuss what's going on. This was written 3 days ago. I believe it was on Thursday. But let's get started. It has been one whole day since President Trump implemented his tariff agenda. With the amount of squirming and outright panic in the news, media, markets, and on social media, you'd think we were 50 years into a 100-year bout of famine, plague, depression, and pestilence. Let's all gather our heads for a second. Yes, the amount of fear-mongering, the amount of people flipping out over this, it's all over everywhere. Everybody you know, everybody I've seen, all the content creators I make are talking about these tariffs and the devastating effect they're having, and people are flipping out. But are they flipping out too much? Is this the stock market? How many people are actually invested in the stock market? 94% of stocks are owned by the richest 8% of people. How many people are going to be retiring soon in the next 18 months? Nobody in my generation, unless they're already like one of those fire people that already works some $250,000 of a year like developer computer science job. I mean, before the layoffs anyway. But like anybody, like nobody I know is getting ready to retire. No millennial I know. I know there's some out there. They're like, well, I'm gonna retire at 40. Good for you. But for like 99% of the rest of us, we're kind of fucked here. But anyways, let's get into this. At a very basic psychological level, people are opposed to change. It doesn't matter whether it's changing their cable provider or taking a detour in traffic. Extrapolating from this, people are really opposed to bigger, more consequential change. Extrapolating from this, in the world of finance, I have consistently argued that market participants have been falsely conditioned by our monetary and fiscal policy in this country to always expect comfort and never expect interruptions of the market moving higher, or that the quality of life status quo that we believe we are entitled to here in the United States to suffer. Yep, part of being an American, it's a great country in a lot of ways, but people, a lot of people get fucked over, a lot of people suffer, a lot of struggle in America, especially like the lower classes, blue collar people, even the middle class struggling a bit. A lot of people don't want to cop to that, but it's true. It's true. There's a lot of problems in America, but I think Trump's election kind of laid that bare. There's big swaths of the population that are affected by this kind of stuff every day. And some people on the left, they just can't cop to it. A lot of neoliberal guys can't cop to it. But anyways, this concept was the basis for my article explaining why I thought the next market crash would break the brains of market participants. Now let's zoom out and think about what President Trump is trying to accomplish with this tariff agenda. He's essentially saying that the status quo in the United States isn't working, but large changes need to be implemented, changes that will shock the global economy to remedy the issue. Who is the status quo not working for? Some of you will ask me from your Porsche driving down PCH or from the desk overseeing your millions in the market. If I had to venture a guess, I'd say it's not working for people in towns like this. That could be any Midwestern town, any town in Ohio, some parts of Michigan, especially around Detroit, or whose grandparents used to work in places like this. Yep, another dismantled factory sitting somewhere in the Midwest just rotting. And the status quo definitely isn't working for the bottom 50% of Americans here, represented by the yellow section that is so small you have to zoom in and see it. Right down there at the bottom here, the little yellow highlight, you can just barely see it. Yeah, Jesus. Wealth by wealth percentile group. Yep, bottom 50 are getting fucked. Billionaires, other than Trump, it seems, have a difficult time answering questions like what happens when we run out of middle American towns to gut, and how has the quality of life been negatively impacted by monetary policy over the last 20 years. The reason they can't answer these questions is because they don't have any idea. Monetary policy helps them accrue more wealth and power, and they don't live in middle America, but if you take a trip to places like Flint, Michigan, or Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the answer to these questions becomes a lot clearer. Yeah, it's a big section of the population people forget about. A lot of rich YouTubers, a lot of these guys out there, I'm not going to name any names, I'm sure you can guess who I'm talking about. But even like a lot of these finance guys, all these guys who have millions in the market, a lot of these guys who make millions producing content and shit like that, they're totally divorced from the reality on the ground. All these guys, all these dudes that are in a lot of ways very intelligent, and I'd wager probably more intelligent than me, just some slob sitting here reading these fucking articles. But yeah, they're totally divorced from what your average working class person has to go through every day. What slobs like me have to go through every day. I'm not doing this what was me routine, but man, I got it rough. And a lot of Americans do, and that's why a lot of Americans threw in with Trump. And a lot of people just can't understand. We keep hearing all these think pieces and all this jargon about how America is so rich. America is so rich. I mean, I don't know why people are struggling. You're stupid if you're struggling in America, but that's just not the case, man. That's just not the case. A lot of people are really getting hit hard, and they turn to a man who, maybe they didn't understand, but maybe there's a better reason for that. I don't know. But anyways, the direction this country is headed monetarily and fiscally was simply unsustainable. Deficits too big, debt skyrocketing against GDP, wealth gap accelerating, drugs and alcohol addiction ravaging cities. We're walking a path that decimated the lives and the purchasing power of the people who needed it most and took American jobs away from people who need them the most. We're worse off. I mean, the United States dependent on adversaries like China to simply go about our day-to-day. Global supply chains were cut off during COVID. It was obvious that our quality of life was 100% dependent on imported goods, everything from consumer electronics to clothing to the ingredients used in pharmaceuticals. Recalibrating the country away from being dependent on adversarial nations is not a simple and inconsequential thing to do. On the contrary, it's about as consequential of a decision as we could possibly make alongside trying to get our fiscal house as a nation in order. Consequential means change. Change means discomfort. Discomfort requires courage. On a positive note, to me, it seems like the first time our government has taken more than a 10-day outlook on the future of our nation. Time and time again, I've complained on this blog that monetary and fiscal policy in this country are run like an infant in a candy store. We do whatever we want, spend whatever we want, throw a tantrum. We don't get what we want, barely think about the decisions we make, and sacrifice and mortgage anything not nailed down to ensure that our quality of life that exists today can continue for just one day. Speaking of which, have we audited Fort Knox yet? The nearsightedness of our policy making in this country has been breathtaking. Trump's tariffs agenda scratches to a halt the record of complacency that's been playing over the sound system of the United States for the last 50 years, since signal to the world that things aren't okay the way they're going. More importantly, it makes the decision to proactively arrest the problem in its tracks where it reaches a terminus on its own. If the country got in such a precarious position, they had to react to the problem instead of being proactive. We would lose any and all leverage we'd have to make deals and recalibrate our position. Being proactive about the issue puts us in a position of strength. Yes, even when your precious Apple stock is down 7%. There are going to be some consequences. Trump knew that in advance. Prices may go up near term. Supply of goods may dwindle going forward. And we may go into recession. But recessions can create investment opportunities for people that have been priced out of the market for the last 20 years. When was the last time middle Americans had a dip in the housing market to push their cash to work? 17 years ago, in 2008. The market moving rates could also offer a chance to refinance trillions in debt that needs to be rolled over, which can't be effectively done at today's rates. So hopefully Jay Powell gets the memo and starts cutting these rates pretty soon so we can move some of this. I know they want to move the money into treasuries and whatnot and all that shit, all that. I discussed that in previous videos, which you can watch if you subscribe to my channel. Anyways, and the people bearing the brunt of the negatives of this policy are the same people who disproportionately benefited from the previous policies. 1% who got infinitely richer thanks to quantitative easing and now have to go through the horrifying exercise of watching their multi-billion-dollar portfolio fall a little bit are going to take extra dollar for quality of life hits from this policy than the lower middle class who have very little invested and probably won't even notice the difference in quality of life because of the squalor they are living in. I think the top 50 richest, like the top 50 billionaires lost $500 billion in the stock market over the last couple days, last week. So, yeah, they're taking a hit. Where's that money going? Who knows? But God forbid they can't buy the $100 million private jet. They got to settle for the $80 million private jet. But like your average person, like you see this all the time. People are making fun of these people, these broke, poor people, these people who don't have 2 dimes to rub together, these people who have just nothing, absolutely nothing, just cheering this collapse on. People are freaking out at them. But it's like, can you really blame them? Can you really... just like they're trying to like scold these people and wag their finger at these people and be like, don't you care? Don't you care if people's lives are going to get ruined? It's just like, no, my life fucking sucks. Fuck it. I don't care if the system collapses. Burn it. They're like totally on board with what Trump is doing. And God help me, I can understand where some of these people are coming from, despite whatever race or reservations I have about Trump. But it's like, yeah, you can't expect these people to buy in anymore. They don't own stocks. They're probably not going to retire. All their money goes to bills and keeping a roof over their head. They may not even be housed. They may be living in cars or something. I mean, even people with jobs can still be homeless, technically. That's why some of these job numbers are fucked up. But yeah, and as I said at the beginning of the article, it has been one day, one goddamn day. The shock of this event will eventually going to wear off. We will achieve a new level of homeostasis. Just maybe within financial asset prices lower, future volatility may come from a cascading dull deleveraging in the financial world, but don't see that as a negative either. Does Fartcoin still have a bid? Yes. When all the excess that should have been carried out has not been carried out yet. And who knows, maybe at about the same time the lower and middle class starts to get their financial footing, stocks actually return to somewhat of a reasonable valuation that John Q. Public can get a chance to take a bite of that apple. Yeah. Get more people invested in the stock market, more people invested in the housing market, get more people more means to make money and prepare for their long-term futures. This could be a good thing. God forbid we agree with the thrust of this article because the guy's pro-Trump or some shit, but still. And also regarding Fartcoin, that's going way up in the crypto markets. I bought a little bit of it myself, spent about $10 on it. That's all I could spare. But yeah, I think the crypto market earned $54 billion, and the regular stock market lost like $3.5 trillion, or even more than that in like a single day. It was like insane, unless we forget, before you piss yourself any further, many of these consequences are based on the assumption that these tariffs are going to be in place for a long time, given how quickly Trump has shifted his stance on trade with other countries after negotiating. I don't really find it probable these tariffs will stay in place for years, as many people are acting like. Some people want to argue the policy isn't a net positive, just generating other trade-offs that aren't worth it. Even if on net balance that's the case, I still think it's worth it as a method of breaking and change the directional status quo in this country. If we have to rearrange the furniture to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. and give people of middle America something to do other than abuse fentanyl struggling into our country, I'm for it. Bring manufacturing, not drugs, to Kensington. I'm ready to buy American, and I know I'm not alone. The discomfort in the market and the media means that it's working, and the sea change reverses the gears of a machine that has been in motion for decades. At the comfort of the market, and then the media means that it's working. And the idea that we're doing it proactively is a positive, not a negative. The same discomfort you feel that makes you want to cave in and just say tariffs are a bad idea is the same discomfort many foreign leaders will feel. Trump will be the only leader under pressure to try and resolve this issue, and so then it becomes a test of wills. America's a country founded on rugged individuals, and there's nothing rugged about throwing a fit because your NASDAQ investment, up 150 over the last 5 years, is down 5% today, especially when the problem likely will be resolved to some degree within a matter of weeks, if not months. So yeah, this could all be different. Stock markets could rebound. I talked to some of these finance guys. They say it might be a dead cat bounce Monday, might recover a little bit, and then panic keeps resuming. But this could be resolved in a matter of weeks. I think a lot of people, are we freaking out over nothing? That's a distinct possibility. But hey, maybe this is what needs to happen. The status quo, hate Trump or love Trump, the status quo needed to change. This is something that had to happen. I'm going to get shit for saying this, but I mean, we just couldn't continue with the way things were before. And if we had voted Kamala in, we would have just continued the same shit. All this lip service paid to like certain progressive causes, all this shit. But in the meantime, like the workers are suffering while everybody's like posting on Twitter and everybody's flipping out, and just it's all this bullshit, it's a mess. But that we need like a cleansing fire in this. So you know what? I'm going to remain pragmatic about it. I got jack shit in stocks. I own a few stocks in an IRA. I got not very much tied into it. And if I lose it, that would suck. But honestly, I'm not really planning on retiring anytime soon. Like maybe not in the next 40 years at least. I don't know. Things could change wildly. Maybe this could work out. Maybe stock markets go back. Maybe they cut rates. Maybe China comes to the table. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of worried about that. Some people are convinced China will bend the knee. Me, not so much. But at the same time, it's just like we had to do something. We had to shake up the system a bit. We got to fix the system because the way it was going, countries were tariffing our goods. The leaders were pocketing the difference, just setting the rates at whatever the fuck. And America was getting the short end of the stick with all these trade imbalances, all these trade deficits and shit like that. So yeah, we got to balance the books somehow. This was going to happen at some point under Republican leadership. So yeah, fuck it. Do what you got to do, Trump. I don't give a shit anymore. But yeah, that's all I got to say for right now, I appreciate you guys watching. If you watch this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you think I'm talking shit. Leave a comment down below if you think this is brilliant. I'll leave a link to this article so you guys can read through it yourself and maybe check out this guy's other posts. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys for right now. You can visit my Cash App on the bottom right of the screen, toss me a few bucks, or consider becoming a member, whatever you want to do. It's all good. If you don't want to, don't even worry about it. I'm not expecting to make money from doing this shit anyway. I'm probably going to have less money going forward, so whatever. I know you guys probably don't have a whole lot of money either, so yep. But anyways, that's all I got. Talk to you guys later.